for the greatest comedian alive, Mr. Ian Ellis.
His name is Ian Ellis.
It's Kimberly Marion with Behind the Mic. So I'm here with Dante Nero.
What's happening?
First off, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you come out from New York.
Yeah.
You did a podcast, Beige Phillip Show.
Yeah.
And what I want to know is what the hell are you doing in Aurora, Illinois right now?
Well, what happened was, first, I used to do the podcast. It was actually, we did a radio, Patrice O'Neill and I did a radio show on XM and Sirius Radio. We actually did it on free radio. We actually took Opie and Anthony, which was one of the premier morning shows. We actually took their show over for a couple of days when Opie got married. When he was getting married. So we were doing, but I got a call from Patrice one day. Him and I would always kind of kicked it over the phone for hours, just philosophizing about relationships, man-female relationships. And he was at one of the premier guests on the Opie and Anthony show, and he basically would go on the show and just take over the show.
Yeah, I always listen to those.
Yeah.
And
he'd just take it over, and so one day Opie goes, you really need you need your own show.
Yeah.
So at the time they were doing like on Saturday, they would just do reruns of the old shows, and so they started giving some of the major comedians in New York a night to do a radio show, like Saturday night. So it would be Billy Burr, Rich Voss, just a list of the cast of cabs all the killers.
Yeah.
And I got a call from Patrice. He says, "Listen, we're gonna. Would I be interested in doing radio with him?" I'm like, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
So he says, "I said, well, what's it gonna be about?" He says, "I just want you to show up and do what we do on the phone." So it's just super, super organic.
Yeah.
In terms of, I never knew what we were gonna talk about. I mean, we knew we were gonna talk about relationships, but it was never any topic. It was just very, very organic, and that's kind of how Patrice wanted it to be. He also always kind of liked that organic element of comedy.
I noticed that in your stand-up too.
Yeah.
I noticed that, like I was watching you and Caroline.
Okay.
And the way that you started, like most comedians start off and they go into their openers, they want that immediate laugh.
Yeah.
Yours was like, it's very organic. Let me talk to the crowd for a moment. And is that something you normally do? It's like
I want to, I mean, there's a lot of, not to knock anybody, some people are very structured in terms of their nature, but I'm trying to stay interested in comedy, I mean, I'm trying to stay interested in the process.
Yeah.
And as long as there's something, I mean, I'm at a point where I know how to make people laugh. I mean, that's the easy part.
Right.
The difficult part is making them laugh at what you want them to laugh at.
Right.
And to bring some degree of content. I think for me, it's always been important to bring some kind of content to say something.
Right.
You have the attention of this mass of people.
Right.
They're listening to you, and they're open because they're laughing, and that's the time something will seep in, make a difference, make some people think differently.
Yeah. All right. Now this is probably the most important question that I want to ask you.
Okay.
What made you learn how to ride a unicycle?
I just was always looking for something to do. I was just be different. I just was always kind of a different kid. And when I was a kid, I was about 10, 11 years old. There was a unicycle in the basement. And when we moved, I guess when my father actually moved in the house, and it was in the basement, and I just always wanted to try it. I was like, bring it up for years. I mean, I must have asked him for 3 years to bring it up, and I wanted to use it. And then one year, he just brought it up, and I spent the summer learning how to ride a unicycle, just taught myself. And then I used to, I wasn't old enough to really have working papers or nothing like that, so I used to charge stores to hand out their flyers. So I would get 100 flyers right around on the news cycle.
That's a hustle right there.
I was always, kind of hustling.
All right, what made you know that, I can do this comedy?
What's weird about that is I was a male stripper for like 11 years prior.
Can you give us a little?
I'm like past my time, but maybe later. But I was in college. I'll tell you quick. I was in college and I was a frat boy. Okay. National Black Fraternity for Omega Psi Phi.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and they did this Toys for Tots benefit, and they wanted to each fraternity to get a guy to represent for it, and I wasn't even actually the first pick. It was another guy from another college who they picked, and then he backed out last minute, and they called me. They figured I would do it.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't
Yeah.
Because I'd do anything.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing it, and then it was the Kappas, the Alphas, Sigmas, the Kappas, Alphas, Sigmas, Qs, and Sigma Phi Rho at the time. It was a new fraternity.
Yeah.
And each one was supposed to be represented, and everybody backed out except for the Alphas and me.
Okay.
So they actually had to hire dudes, professional dudes from the city, and come to find out the guys that they hired, I actually grew up with, from guys from Brooklyn. And so I was like, I can probably make some money off of this. And I was actually living with my girlfriend at the time. I was like, you mind me doing it? She was like, no. Yeah. And that's how I started. When I got back home from school, I didn't have a job. I actually worked with emotionally disturbed kids, and I got attached to a kid who didn't have any family, and they overly medicated him, and he ended up getting really screwed up in the head with psychologically with psych meds. Yeah. And I dropped out of school and I came back home. I was really depressed and I didn't have money and slept laid on my mom's couch for about 6 months. And then I ran into my boy, he was stripping, and then I got into it. Yeah. So I started doing that, and I always was, as long as I can remember, I was always a cat who watched comedy. I was a guy who sat up and watched Letterman and Johnny Carson and tried to stay up for sneak home and listen to my father's Richard Pryor records and Red Fox records. So I was always interested in it. Yeah. Always watched it on TV. Yeah. So once I was doing my own promotion, I did my own choreography, I sold my own costumes. I was always a dude who just, I taught myself how to sew, and I wanted to promote comedy. Yeah. So right around the time with the Def Jam, the whole Def Jam came in, I knew a lot of those guys, and it was one of the first. I wouldn't say one of the first. BET did a Uptown Comedy Club. Uptown was a sketch show.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Jim Brewer,
Flex,
he was on Ellen Cage's Flex Alexander, Deborah Wilson from Mad TV, Rob McNaughty, and Faison Love. There was a bunch of dudes in there, and I actually was taking martial arts with the guys who.
You're like a jack of all trades.
Yeah, I was the guys who ran that. Actually, here's a lot of people don't know this, but on 30 Rock, .com, Kev.com. Kev.com actually was one of the producers of that show.
Yeah, I read that in Tracy Morgan's book. How you talk?
Oh yeah. He was, but he also was a 5th degree black belt in Shuttlecock.
I did not know that.
Out of Harlem, and him and his brother, Iceman, was Andre Brown, who also played. He did a little acting. I don't know if you remember The Last Dragon. Time Mock. Yeah. Okay, there's two of the henchmen, Shonuff's henchmen, the white guy and the black guy. That's actually Kev Brown's brother. The one that breaks the pizza the table in half. Yeah, that was his brother. And they actually had this company called Pyramid Entertainment who they managed Tracy and Mike Epps and all of those, that whole crew of guys. So I wanted to bring Def Jam to Brooklyn, and I knew these guys, and so I just rented a spot and I started producing shows, and I always wanted to do comedy, but I was really kind of a local celebrity with the stripping thing.
Right.
I just didn't think anybody would take me seriously.
Right.
So I put it off year after year after year. I always wrote jokes and stuff. And then I initially got a job with the phone company. I worked for the phone company, and then I became a delegate, union delegate. And then I was like, I always had this thing where I wanted to do something creative.
Yeah.
So I was stripping, I was a union delegate, I worked for the phone company, I was sewing costumes, I was choreographing shows and stuff like that. And then I kind of stopped the stripping and I started a clothing line. We started doing a clothing line because I was already kind of sewing my own clothes. And I got into that, and I got but I really feel like I did that, in retrospect, I did that just to not do comedy.
Right.
You know, it was an excuse not
to do comedy.
Right. So,
was there a fear there? Or was
sure. I mean, I think when you're stripping, you're naked.
Yeah.
But when you're doing comedy, you're emotionally naked. Which is a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
So you just, and you put yourself up there for a judgment every time you open your mouth.
And it's just you.
Yeah.
It's just you.
And there's nobody to blame.
Yeah.
You know,
if you suck, it's...
Can't be like Kobe didn't pass the ball.
Exactly.
It's all you all day.
Yeah.
So,
that's also the good part, too.
Yeah, so because if you do well, then it's also all you
also,
all day. Yeah. So, around, I think, I did the clothing line for 2 years. I had differences with my partners. I was heavy into martial arts, and at the time when I was younger, I used to fight for money. So I would before Kimbo Slice and all that stuff, Kai would call me up. We got $1,000, you want to fight this dude? Yes. I want to fight him. You want to know who he is? No. Let's, I was really kind of a physical kind of dude, and I loved the contact. So
we gonna see you in the MMA next?
Nah, I'm past my prime now. I would be retiring now if that was the case. But it was weird because my partner saw me knock a dude out while I was stripping. It was weird. I was in a G-string.
What was the dude doing at the strip club?
Well, we used to do things where they would have it wasn't just all female. They would have a party and they'd have a male and a female stripper.
Oh, got you.
Somebody's girl I grabbed or whatever. I don't know what it was. And I ended up knocking the dude out, and he watched me knock the dude out. And so I didn't realize this later, but that has an effect on people, especially if they become your business partner. Right. So I think he always kind of felt like he needed to stand his ground, so he gave me a lot of opposition just for the sake of opposition. Yeah. And I was we were trying to do a business, and I ended up dropping the business, and I was like, I really just wanted to do comedy. Yeah. Anyway, so I just gave him the business. The business fell apart when I stopped. So,
when was the time that you said, okay, I'm doing comedy full time, I'm gonna push it, work it as hard as I can?
Well, I still have a day job now, so I do good living with comedy, but I'm also a little extravagant in my taste. Like my alligator shoes, like my fur coats, like my, whatever. And so I had already put in, I think I was 10 years. Let me see, 13. I started the phone company in '94, so I already had 6 years. Okay. And the phone company was 2000. So the minute I gave them notice that I wasn't doing the clothing line, the next day I took a comedy class. Literally the next day I was in a comedy class. Wow. And I started doing and I think I went on Amazon.com and I got every book on comedy that I could read. I must have read 8 books, which actually became kind of repetitious, which was a good thing because it kind of gave me a foundation and a structure. So you get a lot of people who take these classes and you get an opportunity to go on stage and kind of work on your stuff and a lot of people are like, I don't feel like going up to that. I'll be like, I'll go up, because I kind of understood the time and how important the time was. Right. So I started doing it from there, and I think I took one other class with a guy by the name of Larry Amorose. Larry Amorose actually wrote for Arsenio Hall thing. He did Young Comics, Rodney Dangerfield's Young Comics with, I think, with Robin Williams. And I took a class. He was actually giving a class at Caroline's on Broadway, and I took his class. And for me, everything was just so repetitive because I had so much technical background from reading all the books, and I had taken a class, and it was just kind of a waste of time. Right. And then I just realized you just gotta
get up on the stage and do it.
Yeah, you gotta do it. You just gotta do it. You know, and it's a big fight to get on stage.
Yeah.
You know, just to get on stage and get stage time.
Especially in New York, right? Because you're, you know, in New York, what is that scene like? Because, you know, we have being on the Chicago scene, we have so many people that leave, go to New York, go to LA.
Yeah.
It's just a very, like, ours is very bar-centric. Everyone just get up in the bar, go, you know, what is that scene like?
Well, I think because of the fact that, like what you're saying, the hub of comedy is in New York City. I mean, there's definitely a comedy scene in LA,
right?
But there's people in LA who act and they do comedy, they use comedy as a way, as a means to end. And there's some guys who are, you know, comics out there, but New York is comics for the sake of doing comedy. And so you find everybody, the best from every place, wherever they are. Once they reach the pinnacle of where they think they're at, they go, look, I gotta go to New York. Yeah. So I know. I mean, I know Hannibal and Marina Franklin and all of them came from. Marina's a really good friend of mine.
I love Marina Franklin.
That's like my little sister. But she was a little ahead of me. She had started later, but we started right around where they had the Boston Comedy Club. And what happened was Barry Katz, who managed Dane Cook, opened the Boston Comedy Club in New York City. Called it the Boston Comedy Club in New York City. Wow. And that was kind of one of my first clubs, going on and just hanging out there till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning trying to get on stage. And I was with Marina and a list of other cast of characters who are still doing it pretty much.
Yeah.
You know.
Like, most comics, a lot of things, like, they say, oh, there's nothing that can be taboo in comedy. Is there something that you're just like, I can't touch that? Or I won't touch that?
No, I don't. I mean, I know there's comics who feel that way. Yeah. I'll talk about whatever. I don't really care. And I think it's important because the minute I think an audience gets a feel of where your issues are, what your particular issues are. If you don't give them the opportunity to judge you, then they can't judge you. Yeah. It's when you're asked. It's almost like when you do a joke in the sense of, hey, you know, is this okay? When you say the joke, is this okay? Then they go, well, let me, you know, that they have an opinion. I don't really care. I don't, you know. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Patrice and I became good friends, and I, you know, just watching him was a phenomenal thing. Like, he really kind of opened my head up to a lot of things that I never thought. Like, I was like, really, you could do that?
Yeah.
Like, and he was never apologetic about anything.
I don't know, but that's what made his stand-up so good, is that he was uninhibited about what he was going to say.
And there was always a reasoning behind it. So if that you challenged him, then he could debate you.
Right.
So it was stuff that he believed in. And I learned a lot from him, just basically, because he was a horrible teacher. Like, he was really an awful teacher in that.
Why do you,
just, I don't think he really ever knew how good he was. I think he knew he was better than everybody else, but I don't think so when he explained something to you, he explained it as if you knew it already.
Ah, okay.
So he didn't really know how to break it down in terms of, you had to catch up.
Right.
So a lot of things that he taught, he would say to me, a lot of things he would say to me, I didn't know what he was talking about until I got to the place where I actually could execute it. Then I'd be like, oh, this is what he was talking about.
Yeah.
But if he could have explained it, I probably could have gotten it faster. So even with him, I found myself watching and trying to figure it out. Just trying to figure out what he was doing and what he wasn't doing, you know?
Yeah, especially, I didn't realize how good he was. Like, I'd seen him on the roast, but he's one of those dudes, like, I had heard of Rich Voss, I had heard of, you know, Bill Burr, and I had heard of all those guys, and I didn't realize how good Patrice.
Yeah.
Really,
They all looked up to him.
Yeah.
They all looked up to him. And the people that didn't look up to him were afraid. When he walked in the place, they were afraid. They were nervous about him.
Yeah.
Going up, following him and stuff. And he was not one of the older, like he was kind of, I mean, let me see. I think when I met him, he had 10 years in. And right at that time, he was still doing bits at that time. It wasn't as freeform, but he was transitioning to this real conversational thing that he was doing. And so I kind of watched that transition.
Yeah.
And I'm 3 years older than him. And so his, my life experience, I mean, I was pit fighting and hustling and running around and stripping. And so there was a lot of I guess, life experience that I have that he didn't have, and that's kind of why he had respect for me. I mean, I had respect for him because he was an amazing comic, but he had that kind of respect for me in terms of the life experience. And which generally, he didn't really look up to anybody, but I think we had kind of a brother relationship where he would ask me questions. It was kind of mutual. It was kind of a kind of growth, kind of personal life growth that we both kind of embarked on, and we kind of used each other as a sounding board.
Judging from like Patrice, because you said that one of the things is I don't want to say he didn't know his worth, but something to the fact that like he didn't know how good he was, or
he didn't really worry about that.
Yeah.
Like, he knew who he was better, but it was more about getting better.
Yeah.
It was more about pushing his art. And that's what I think you have to do that. If you're using it as using other people as a litmus, I mean, I guess that's good too, but I think he was always about pushing himself. And everybody knew, like, he was the benchmark. People used him as the benchmark to measure themselves. I mean, Billy Burr was motivated by him. I mean, I remember being with Billy Burr at the Boston, and Billy went up and did this bit. He did this amazing, because one of his specials, he did this bit about him punching muffins. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah,
about punching muffins. And I was like, man, Billy, that bit that's awesome. It's an awesome bit. And he was like, you think so? You know, and that's how, you know, these guys were so good, and they still were like, you think so? I said, yeah. Oh, you gotta work that out. And I was like, man, when I watch you, sometimes I wonder what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I think the same way when I watch Patrice. That's what the conversation. So it was, he was definitely a benchmark of what people looked at. But I think that was how good he was. Yeah. But he was so busy pushing his art.
Yeah.
And then some of the things that I learned for myself is me not really worrying about anything, but just keep pushing.
Yeah.
Going deeper.
Yeah, because sometimes we get so focused on, oh, I want this, I want to get that. And you gotta have that ambition too, but you gotta the first aspect of it is you having to want to be really good at what you do.
Sure.
The other thing is now that we do have President, Obama in office, are you pulling more women now than you say you have the presidential?
Oh, because I'm white skinned?
Yeah.
I mean, I never really did bad. I was, I was always pretty good, did my own thing. But I mean, it was kind of an observation. I mean, that particular book was an observation that I made, that there was a time when light-skinned dudes was the thing. Yeah. Albie Shore, Christopher Williams, the whole thing. And then all of a sudden with Michael Jordan, it was like, all chocolate. And that was because of him. And now I think because of Obama, people just follow the trends. Yeah. So it was kind of an observation on my part. But I always did pretty good.
You get groupies? Wait, I might get them in trouble.
I don't know if it's groupies. I don't know if there's comics that have groupies.
Can comics have groupies?
I get pussy.
I guess I don't know. I mean, it's
that's
kind
how
of
true players respond.
You don't know. You never know what's in somebody's head or what's not. I mean, I've had a couple of stalkers, but that can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that because of comedy or just, one of the things I think for me, important for me is to meet the person that I am off stage, on stage. And so I think if that's a representation of me, and they, you know, and that's what they take is, you know, that's what they think. It is what it is.
Now I know you've been, you know, on TV shows and all that type of stuff. And are you looking to break through into like doing more TV or creating or writing, producing your own stuff?
I have a couple of shows. I think now, it's the business is such that there's a need for you to have these other outlets. I don't think you can move forward without having these other outlets. You know, Ben Bailey, who's a Cash Cab guy.
Yeah.
So Ben was a great comic, a really good comic. Came up, but he was struggling.
Right.
You know, I think he had a Seinfeld episode and a couple other things, maybe a half-hour special. But it wasn't until he got the Cash Cab thing that he really started touring, because people really wanted to see Cash Cab guy. Yeah. And a lot of times I don't think they knew what a good comic he was before that.
Yeah.
But they wanted to see Cash Cab guy.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you get the same thing when you look at the chick that was the Indian chick from The Office. She's never, she did comedy 2-3 years, and now she's touring.
Yeah.
So, or Anita.
Her name, Mindy Kevin.
Yeah, and Angela Johnson.
Yeah.
She did a YouTube clips, and then all of a sudden now she's touring over. But what happens a lot of times is that becomes where they don't really have the chops.
Right.
Because YouTube, television puts them on this national stage, and they're not really ready. I mean, they really haven't put the time in.
Yeah.
You know.
And it takes a lot of time to develop.
Sure, and even with the writers and stuff like that, you know, even some of them get big and they get writers and stuff like that, but still there's a seasoning. You can tell the difference.
Yeah, and it takes time. Like, you have to be on stage working it out.
Constantly. You gotta constantly.
Has there ever been a time where you're like, you know what, I'm not feeling comedy?
I get that feeling. I mean, I love the art of it, but the business aspect of it. It's not like, you know, like people, like there's this big thing right now about Phil Jackson's book, and he's talking about the difference between Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And there's no way that Kobe could ever say he's as good as Michael Jordan, because there's statistics.
Yeah.
You know, how many rings does he have? How many points did he score? How many this? And it's just, there's a way to measure that.
Yeah.
So with comedy, it's so subjective that there's no real way to measure it. And and a lot of times comics tend to think that what the industry does in terms of how they measure your funny is based on the stuff that you do. But you get a guy like Aziz Ansari, who, you know, he did Human Giant, did sketch work and stuff like that. But he was an Indian dude who there were no Indian dudes. Yeah. And so he blows up on the national stage, and there was a lot of dudes who he couldn't follow behind. Yeah. You know. So I mean, and not to take anything away from that. I mean, if I had gotten the opportunity, I would have taken the opportunity. Right. And I think you have to do that. Yeah. You know. Little Kev, who I think is a really proficient comic. Yeah. A really good comic. Got the break early. But Kev came from that old school, like he was a good friend with Patrice and Keith Robinson, and he came under that. And I think Kev knew that he wasn't ready for them. See, Kev was always a dude that was giving the ball. Yeah. Even if he gonna shoot an air ball, he would give me the ball. It's 10 seconds, let's give me the ball. So he always had that go get it type of attitude. Yeah. But I think when he started reaching fame, he knew that he had work to do, and I think he put the work in so that his skill level matched his fame level. You know. Right. And I think a lot of that had to do because we all kind of came on. I mean, he was out of Philly. Yeah. Like Keith Robinson, who was kind of discovered Wanda Sykes and Lil Kev and all those. You know, these guys they just respected the art in that way that it was just like, look, you know, I mean, even Kev talks about that. I mean, a couple of times Kev had the interview where Keith told me, you suck. Yeah. He said, man, you didn't see me just kill. He said, who cares whether you kill, you suck. like what you're talking about means nothing. And so I think you get these guys who have a real respect for it. And I was really lucky. Like I started in 2000, and I was around. Like you could go to the Comedy Cellar, and you walk in there, and there would be on a Tuesday night, it would be Patrice, Jim Norton, Greg Giraldo, Nick DiPaolo, Colin Quinn, Chris Rock, Khabib, Dave Chappelle, Wanda Sykes, Ray Romano. All these dudes would just be sitting at the table together.
Yeah.
And to watch these with David Tell. And then the B team was guys like Ted Alexandro, Russ Maneve, Billy Burr, Judah Freeland, Pete Corielli, and then the C team was the guys, you know, like your Vecchione, Big J, Marina, and me, and that was like the C team, and I was like at the bottom of the C team, you know, because I was the latest to come into that. So you had every class of people, you know, that were there, and so to watch these guys and watch how amazing they were. If somebody asked you, hey, you want to do 5 minutes? You was like, nah, I'm good. Like, you didn't even want to get on that stage. Yeah. Because it was just so much heat. Yeah. You know.
But in the end, that can make you better, too.
Sure, but it's deep water. You know, there's no sense in drowning. You know, if you can't swim, no, maybe you shouldn't go out the deep. But, you know, I mean, you knew where you were at. And we had a respect for those guys and what they were doing and how far ahead they were.
And sometimes people don't even realize, like, you know, watching can be sometimes the best teacher, watching those great people.
Sure.
And there's a lot of young comics that sometimes that will go up and they're like, oh, I murdered it. And it's like, are you listening to what's going on outside of there? Do you ever walk off the stage and, you know, and say, like, I just murdered it, and then somebody come up to you and say, are you in tune with what the audience
I am.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really the audience. It's, I can murder and not be pleased with the set. Yeah. Because I don't feel like I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I didn't say what I wanted to say. Right. I mean, you know, that part of it is the creative aspect of it. The other part of it is the content, and the other part of it is technique. A lot of it is technique. Yeah. And it's technique that you learn, and even the techniques, like the technique is different for me than somebody else. Right. Depending on who you are, how people perceive you, those techniques are different. You know, so you can't. Sometimes somebody else's technique will not even apply to you. Yeah. So it's just a really kind of random kind of art form where the fundamentals always are not the fundamentals. That all the fundamentals don't even apply to everybody. Right. So because they're perceiving you, the audience is perceiving you, and as they're perceiving you, you have to be able to have this out of body experience to sit in the audience and see what they're perceiving. Yeah. And then based on that, your perspective of how you approach the jokes or the topics is based on that. Yeah. And if you can't do that, then you don't really know how to, you know. And I think even people who don't do that, they learn the technique, and they learn the technique, and they still get laughs, and they do well. But they, you know, that next level of, you know, where you know, people look at what Patrice does and they go, like, you know, like that Jimi Hendrix thing where people, you know, where Clapton is still looking at Jimi Hendrix and going, man, they got you know,
how do you do that?
At 26 years old, you know, so, I mean, I think that's, you know, that's a difficult thing about it, but it's the great thing about it. It keeps you interested, you know.
Yeah. So, for your future, what would you like to accomplish in this company?
I mean, I got a long way to go. I mean, I have a long way to go. I mean, I you know, we got the podcast going, and the podcast was really, it was really important for me because I kind of hit a lull where I really wasn't getting. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we always want more. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I want to get a half-hour special.
Yeah.
But Colin Quinn, he's working on another Broadway play.
Yeah.
But before he had the Broadway play, didn't feel good about it because they canceled Tough Crowd. So we're always looking for the next thing, and it's all relative to where you're at. I love, the podcast was something that Patrice and I did, and the last episode we did was in 2008, and from 2008 all the way until Patrice's death, guys were asking, bring the podcast back. And so finally, just in a way for me to kind of do my own healing, I started doing it. I picked it up.
Yeah.
I picked the show up and started doing it as a podcast. And I was worried. Honestly, I was worried because Patrice's big shoes to fill.
Right.
And the guys listening to those shows, they're on YouTube, and guys are listening to the old Black Phillip shows.
Right.
And there's still amazing shows to listen to.
Yeah.
It's still funny. They're still poignant. It's kind of like when I watch old Groucho Marx movies. I love the Marx Brothers.
Yeah.
And this stuff is still hilarious today.
Yeah.
It's still so it was a big step for me to even think that I could step in his shoes.
Right.
And kind of do my version of it.
Yeah.
So.
And not only that, but then stepping in his shoes, it's more like you're creating something. Y'all built it together. It's kind of like, you were just as much a part of it as Patrice was.
Sure.
Was there anyone that said like, oh, you shouldn't be doing it because Patrice is no longer?
There were a couple of comics that kind of mumbled it under their breath, and nobody didn't really come to me directly and say anything, but I'm quite sure some people. But the real testimony is what the fans think about it.
Yeah.
Because it was really for them anyway. So the fans, I haven't gotten any. I've had guys actually message me and say, man, I was a little skeptical about this when I heard somebody else, somebody was picking it up, but man, when I listen to it, it's, and some people like it better, I think I'm a better teacher than he was.
Yeah.
So, I kind of break it down and I give a practical application to the stuff that I'm talking about. Where I don't really think that one of the things that Patrice wasn't good at was like just brilliant dude, but just a lousy teacher.
Yeah.
So.
Even though you can learn a lot through his comedy.
Sure. But the application of that is it's so complex.
Yeah.
It's I remember him telling me. He said to me, he says, I really couldn't understand why there were comics that I really liked watching when I first started doing comedy, and why I couldn't stand watching them as I got better. And he kept saying something about the rhythm.
Yeah.
So, and I had no idea, like the face you just made was the same. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, there's speech rhythms. And I was like, I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. And I still, there was never an explanation from him. But now I understand that. When you do jokes, when you're doing your act, you're manipulating the audience into laughter.
Yeah.
But what we don't understand is that the audience is manipulating us from the other way. It's almost Pavlovian in the fact that we do jokes in a specific speech rhythm, we get the laughter.
Yeah.
So that's the reward. And so the audience programs us into that rhythm.
Yeah.
So what happens is ultimately you start to write your jokes in that rhythm.
Yeah.
So whether you realize whether the audience is aware of it or not, they programmed you into your rhythm and your speech pattern.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
But
So
that's so true.
And you because the gratification is the laughter.
Yeah.
So subconsciously, now if you listen to any comic, there's a rhythm to their jokes. I mean, if you and the best way to see that rhythm is if the comic is on stage and you're out of the room and you can't really hear the articulation of the words.
Yeah.
But you can hear them, and so you'll hear so you'll hear that, and then you like somebody like Gaffigan, you'll hear that, and then you won't hear the whisper, and then whisper, or or the tail will go ram, like that's kind of his rhythm. So what conversation is there's no rhythm to conversation because it's stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
So there's no rhythm. As I think the thoughts, I release those thoughts. So there's no rhythm. And something happens and my attention goes someplace, so somebody makes a noise outside or something. So there's never any rhythm to it. And that not having a rhythm feels real as a conversation because that's how conversation is. There is no rhythm.
Yeah.
And even though in a comedy club, audiences, I don't think they're cognitively aware of this, but they know the difference between a rhythm and not a rhythm.
Yeah.
So it almost becomes like dun 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 dun. Here's the joke, like that.
Yeah.
So the great thing about like Patrice, I remember saying I'm trying to forget my jokes, and I didn't know what that meant either.
Right.
But what it is the initial time when you do your joke, when you're talking it out, you're figuring it out, there is no rhythm to it. So it's fresh to you, and because it's fresh to you, it's fresh to the audience.
Yeah.
And that freshness is what is maybe not important. I mean, you'll still get the laugh.
Yeah.
But when in comparison to somebody who doesn't have a rhythm and somebody who does have a rhythm, the audience feels the difference.
Yeah.
They feel it, that it's conversation. It feels different to them. And so the part of your growth in comedy is learn how to be funny. Yeah. And ultimately you learn what your rhythm is. And a lot of comics get in that place and they stay there. Yeah. But I think what the next level of that is to deconstruct the rhythm that you created, but still be funny. Yeah. Without the
like break your habit.
Right, break the habits.
You know.
Say different words, use different words, explain it differently.
Yeah.
Use, like you maybe you jump a tag or a punchline, you drop that, you rearrange it, take a piece of this, and all of that makes it fresh to you. Yeah. And so it feels fresh to the audience. Yeah. Which is a really higher level of looking at. Yeah. As opposed to, I'm doing misdirection jokes, this, and then the left turn. Yeah.
Serious metacognition.
Yeah, it's and even that, like when you talk about jokes in terms of patterns, and the punchline is not the pattern. Yeah. So I go 2-4, you think 6, I say 9. Yeah. Or 260. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That is, in order to create the pattern and get your brain moving forward, you need at least 2 objects to create the pattern. Right. So that the punchline is this. So that's the briefest joke. Yeah. Now when you get a younger comic, what they'll do is, mathematically they'll go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 19. Yeah. And that's the joke. But the real, somebody who has an economy of words will go 2, 4, 270. And that's the 270 being, how could I possibly know that was the next number? You know what I mean? Exactly. So that's the punchline, and that's the bigger, and that's the economy of words. So you understanding that, the technique of that, and then even understanding how, like if you see urban comics, one of the biggest problems with urban comics going mainstream is the fact that the jokes are already set up. Yeah. So as a black comic doing comedy for a black community, we have a lot of the same experiences. So you don't have to explain the joke, you don't have to set it up. Right. So the joke is set up, and then all I have to do is do the punchline because you already get it. Yeah. You already understand the story, and then I just do the punchline, which is 270 or 19. It's so but put them in front of a mainstream audience. Like a lot of times on the weekends, especially in the city, you do spots in the city and there's tourists there. Yeah. So you might have 4 people from Belgium, 3 Aussies, some people from Austria, some from New Zealand, 4 Puerto Rican girls from the Bronx, a family from Oklahoma, and then now how do you how do you set the joke up with this diverse understanding of what life and living is? That's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
So that helps you with doing understanding the vastness of people and their experiences.
Yeah.
It helps you to I guess take it to the fundamental what needs to be said, and then still to have the economy of words when you're setting up the joke. But I mean, this is real technical, it's like super technical stuff. But I think that was what the thing that separated Patrice from other people, is that he really thought deeply about it.
Yeah, and I think if you want to get better, you do have to look at it that way and break those habits. Like, and like I used to play guitar, and I found myself playing the same progressions,
same riffs,
and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna say I'm not gonna play it this way. I can only use chords in between this fret and this fret, forcing myself out of
comfort zone. Yeah.
Comfort zone.
Yeah.
And now I'm finding myself having to do that in comedy, like forcing myself out of that comfort zone. Like, who are some of the comedians now that you're like, man, this dude or this chick or whoever is just so incredibly funny? Like, you can just watch them.
Well, honestly, after being around Patrice so long, it's difficult. Like, it's a lot to be, impress me in terms of it. But I like Stanhope a lot.
Yeah.
I like Jeffries. I like Jim Jeffries a lot. He's a beast too. But even those guys, I mean, like, I think a few of the things that happen when you have, like, Stanhope is a huge following and like a cult following. Like, those are his people.
Yeah.
And what happens with that is, and this is again getting out of your comfort zone. So you produce your show, you produce your own shows, and people love you and they come to see you. So now you don't ever have to sell it to somebody who's not already, they already come there for you.
Yeah.
So you can get a little preachy.
Yeah.
So you get preachy because of the fact that they give you the license to do that, because anything you say, they love it anyway.
Right.
So that's the, so now you're in a situation where you feel as though, like, I mean, I would assume we would consider that Stanhope has made it, he's made a living, he's a name, so on and so forth. But then you become preachy because your following is so huge. I mean, I think that's the same thing that happened to Dane.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole college, he walked on water. And I always, people, it's weird because I remember looking at Dane, like his half-hour special, and just watching his stuff early on, and I thought it was amazingly funny.
Yeah.
Like, it really, and then, but then you get, it's like, Biggie says, don't get high on your own supply. You start believing the hype, and now it's funny to see Dane, like a couple of times I've seen him work, and now he's working again.
Yeah.
Just trying to push yourself on him, so I think you get comfortable with that. I mean, I like Jim, I like Doug. There's a lot of, I like Colin. Colin Quinn is the quintessential hardest working man in comedy. I mean, just amazing how this dude pushes. There's a lot of dudes I enjoy watching. I mean, do I go, oh man,
like you said,
I watch those guys.
Yeah.
Attell is a joke teller, which I may get a little flack for this, but telling jokes, when you do jokes, I think there's a limit to how much you can grow. There comes a time when you're just a great joke teller, and the jokes can't be any leaner, and so it only leaves you to write more great jokes.
Yeah.
I think the next level of that is when you start to reveal things about yourself personally.
Yeah.
You start talking about that stuff that's painful for you and stuff that's uncomfortable to you. And I don't think joke telling really leaves. It allows you to do that, but in a very controlled situation.
Right. Yeah.
Where you just go and you're not just, this is who I am.
Yeah, and that's like the Louis C.K. speech where he's like, I wrote these jokes, and then I realized I had to go deeper.
Right.
And then
I realized how long I just sucked for 10 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Louis, I love Louis too. Louis is very honest. I really like his honesty. I don't really get a belly laugh from him, but I just respect how he's constantly pushing it artistically.
Yeah, and that's the same way I am with Lucy K. It's not like I'm dying on the floor laughing. But
he's brilliant.
But yeah.
And Billy's brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Billy's a monster. But Billy's a technician.
Yeah.
Billy's a real technician. He was always a technician. But he's so technical that his technical aspects of his comedy, I believe, start to cross over into the soulfulness of putting himself out there.
Yeah.
Because he is so technical.
Yeah. But he definitely is.
Yeah.
Well, Dante, I don't want to take up any more of your time.
I appreciate you.
You've been awesome. Like, I felt like I just had, like, like those master classes of, like, comedy. Like, I felt like that's what it was. I was like, oh my God, I just learned, like, a million things.
Before you get out of here, just want to briefly talk about what the Beige Phillip Show is.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, well, the Beige Phillip Show was basically, it came out of the thing that Patrice and I did was the Black Phillip Show, but the concept of it was basically that anytime you look on TV, movies, and so on and so forth, and where I think that the feminist movement and the women's rights movement was just as important because of the abuse of women and the inequities that women were underwent.
Yeah.
And so those things were important, but now this is just like political correctness of things where it's kind of run amok. So anytime you look at a male figure on TV, he's an idiot.
Right.
He's a dad, he can't fix anything. He's putting the direct TV on the roof and falling off the roof. And so these idiots and
Tim Allen's entire
right. And if not that, it's some guy who's begging his wife for sex.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to upset her. And that's not, my dad wasn't like that. Like my dad was a strong male figure, and I think that women really want that. I think they really want it, and so I think I find so many men who just don't understand that. They don't know how to have an argument. They'd rather have peace. So they'd rather give in for something just to have peace. And what ultimately happens is they end up getting pushed until the woman that they would finds them unattractive because they're
they're soft.
Yeah.
They're soft.
So they push you to be soft, and then they don't like you because you are soft.
Yeah.
But I think that's the nature of things. I mean, the nature of things. So the Beige Phillip Show was to have an understanding of that, an understanding of what the dynamic of women and men and relationships and who we're supposed to be as credible men, who we're supposed to be as men. And then you have the other side of it is a guy who gets how to manipulate the situation, and then he's abusive. And so now you have guys who abuse women in that way and take advantage of women in that way, and then make them even more fierce. So the next guy that they're with
is fucked.
They destroy him. Destroy his soul. And so I think initially the Black Phillip Show was about us just understanding that, and this is sort of a how to just be more credible to kind of have that kind of balance of being a man, but being supportive and inspirational and strong enough to say no, but not be abusive. And so that was basically the premise. And so part of it is I researched the underlying bed of the instinctual drives, instinctual sex drives that I think that we ignore because we feel like we're cognitive individuals, and I'm teaching it. I mean, we could have called it Man School, but we called it Beige Phillip Show because I'm not really black. I'm more beige. Black.
I wasn't sure. I was like, is he Puerto Rican?
And the thing about it, the show is called Black Phillip because it was a play on words for Dr. Phil. Like that was the conversation. Dr. Phil. So instead of Dr. Phil, it was Black Phillip. It was the ghetto Dr. Phil, which is Black Phillip. And then when I took it over, I wasn't really black, so I just called it Beige Phillip. And that was kind of an homage, my homage to Patrice, to understand what the connection was, and the fact that it was just me the tribute to him and as my friend and all that he's contributed to comedy and stuff. And so that's what it is. That's what the show is.
That's what's up. This young gentleman over here can definitely take a listen to Beige Phillip and.
You saying I'm not credible?
No, I'm just saying.
The following program is rated P for Pimp. Dante Nero is not a licensed therapist, counselor, or medical professional. He is, however, a former pimp, 7-time Male Exotic Dancer of the Year, comedian, writer, actor, fighter, emotional philanthropist, and revolutionary, who just happens to have some unique perspectives on male and female relationships and game. Be advised, this is the Beige Phillip Show.
Again, this is clearly a Beige Phillip principle. Write this down, people. Nothing you want to do gets in the way of your relationship. It is innately part of who you are and why the bitch fell in love with you in the first place. Huh?
That is true.
That is write that one down. Beige Phillip principle number 2. Don't think if you're honest and they agree to it that they will agree to it later.
There's nothing that holds them legally, even if you state it. Yeah.
There is no binding. There's no binding legal agreement. Just like ladies, if you get an order of protection, I can still choke you. See?
Not that he would. He's not that kind of guy.
Saying,
Not physically, but
slow even pressure.
emotionally, you will lay down the hand.
We'll say three for today.
Okay, fair enough.
Anything you do for a woman more than 3 times is no longer a favor. It is a habit and
That is
obligation.
what you're supposed to do.
And you need to understand that's how they think. Now, I think a lot of times we don't really recognize how much we're taking for granted, because to be a man means that you provide. That your job is to provide. I say this all the time. I said one of the biggest pimps in the game is Kevin Federline. He's the only dude that won. He's the only dude that married Britney Spears and actually came out on top, which is insane. But we look at Kevin Federline as if he's a pussy. We should actually be walking around with Kevin Federline t-shirts. Now, when you get somebody like Tiger Woods, he gets beat from some rule number 4. Don't let a bitch define you. Define yourself. And if she's not into what you are, be ready to take the L. Step off. Beige Phillip principle number 5. A woman falls in love with you for everything that you are. She spends the rest of the relationship trying to change you into everything that you're not. If she succeeds, she will dump you for the guy who is what you were when she met you. That's what your problem is in the first place, is you're looking for a chick to change you. It was your responsibility to make yourself who you are in the first place. It's putting yourself first. It's understanding that that you have to fix the things that you think are broken in yourself. Now, I'm not saying that those things are broken. I don't know him personally. I don't know what's broken or not broken. It's what mentally you think is broken. You got to fix those things. So if you don't know how to dance, take a dance class. If you don't know how to talk, then read a book. If you like travel, like do. And what happened was what happened to me ultimately is I ultimately did these things so that I could get laid. I worked on my style, my clothes, I read books, I traveled so that I would have something to say. And then ultimately when I started doing those things, it wasn't about me getting women. It was things that I was like, wow, I enjoy these things. I enjoy traveling, I enjoy dressing, I enjoy taking care of myself, making sure that my beard is tight, my head is clean shaved, and I moisturize my face and get my pedicure on my man. These were things that I started to like on my own. And then it didn't become about them, which is really when my game got strong, because of the fact that it really wasn't, because the real game is no game at all. It's me being the person that I perceive myself to be. So what I would say first is, Beige Phillip rule number 6 is it's always your fault.
Yep.
Anything that happens in a relationship that goes bad with your woman, if your woman's a bitch, if she's disrespectful, if she cheats on you, if she leaves you, if she takes your money, it's your fault.
The way she treats you is by what the presentation you give her.
Exactly.
You act like a punk, she gonna treat you like a fucking punk. It's that simple. No such thing as victims. Only volunteers. Step your pimping up, guys.
Common sense ain't common. If it was common, everybody would know. You can't assume that people understand things. But you gotta be a real dude knows how to explain it in a way that there are no options. Beige Phillip rule number, I don't even know what we up to. Everybody gets got. You don't get better till you get got. Beige Phillip rule number what? 9?
Put yourself first, second, and third.
Put yourself first by all costs. You don't love yourself, nobody else will. So we're gonna go Beige Phillip rule number 10. All bitches are crazy. The only thing we need to decide is how crazy. That means you need to get in their head and understand what fits. This is a man and a woman together. In order to really get your pimp game on, you got to figure out how you fit into her piece. She might have a real awkward puzzle piece, but you got to figure out how to fill those cracks and crevices. Because if you don't, she won't. But you know what's interesting? I think a lot of the point of views that I have about women and relationships, it tends to be a little more, maybe people might say, misogynistic. But I would disagree. I don't know why we have laughter in the studio, but I disagree because I clearly understand that if you're going to take on any woman, that you have to be a provider and you have to give direction. A woman without direction is headed for self-destruction on a paper boat on a lake of fire.
Write that down.
Understand that relationships are not 50-50. You want to be the king of your castle or the captain of your ship, you have to steer the ship all the time. Because what happens when you don't steer the ship? It ends up on the rocks. So you can't let a bitch steer you on the rocks. Because once she steers you on the rocks, nobody's got a boat. She don't have a boat, you don't got a boat, and everybody else who's riding on the ship.
It is true. A woman can't sink both of you.
Yeah.
And will, by the way. Will destroy both of you for the sake of hurting you. It's a kamikaze mission.
And then not really kamikaze, because they'll swim and jump on somebody else's boat. So and I kind of feel that women don't have a personality.
Again, not misogynistic. But what do you mean by that?
Let me clarify that. Well, I think there's a range. There's a range of personality, but a woman is always a reflection of the man that she's fucking. I think we as men, we don't understand that this is a war. We are at war. If you're in a relationship, you are at war. Because I want you to understand that the Beige Phillip Show in general, this is for real. I mean, we joke and we laugh, but this is for real. Harry and I are talking about putting this together because we want to help people. We want to make this situation, make relationships better, not just for men, but for women too, because they don't have that guidance. We know no direction, self-destruction on a paper boat on a lake of fire. You understand? We're letting women cut our balls off. We want this show to be something where we help you get your balls back. That's what it is. Beige Phillip Show, y'all. The revolution is being podcasted, baby. It's going down. GYBB, get your balls back, fellas. And as always, you can reach us at beigephillip@gmail.com. That's BEIGEPHILLIP. BeigePhillip@gmail.com for all the comments, and questions, and the love, the hate, whatever. Just hit us there. BeigePhillip@gmail.com.
Trying to get a nice shot at Dante's junk, so